News when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. There's your closing bell for this Thursday on Wall Street, where markets lost some momentum as President Trump weighed using the government shutdown to lay off thousands of federal workers. And we bring you the closing numbers each day here at Bloomberg. The S&P 500 gained 4 points, NASDAQ gained 89, the Dow gained 79. The 10-year Treasury yield at 4.08% and the 2-year yield at 3.54%. This is the second day of the federal government shutdown. It's left hundreds of thousands of federal workers in limbo. And now the Trump administration is pushing to have some of those workers fired. House Speaker Mike Johnson says the shutdown handed authority to the president.
In that situation, when Congress turns off the funding and the funding runs out, it is up to the commander-in-chief, the president of the United States, to determine how those resources will be spent.
House Speaker Mike Johnson on Capitol Hill. Democratic Senator Elizabeth Warren tells CBS the GOP needs to put the brakes on these threats of layoffs.
Let's understand that Donald Trump is going to do whatever he wants to do. And Russ Vought, the author of Project 2025, is in there trying to make as many painful cuts as he can. That could be stopped if the Republicans in the House and the Senate would just say no more of this.
President Trump is meeting with White House Budget Director Vought to discuss potential cuts to the federal workforce. The White House had threatened to announce job cuts as soon as today. Vought has been withholding spending for certain projects and programs. The Congressional Budget Office estimates that about 750,000 employees are furloughed during the shutdown at a cost of $400 million each day in lost compensation. Now, speaking of jobs, employers in the U.S. announced plans to add more than 117,000 jobs in September. That's down 71% from last year. Data from outplacement firm Challenger Gray and Christmas show this is the weakest September for hiring intentions since 2011. Companies announced plans to cut more than 54,000 jobs in September. That's down about 26% from a year ago, with planned cuts not necessarily translating into immediate layoffs. And employers announced plans to cut more than 946,000 jobs so far this year. That's the highest since 2020, with reductions most notable in government. British police have declared a deadly rampage at a synagogue that killed 2 people on Yom Kippur, the holiest day of the Jewish year, was a terrorist attack. The head of counterterrorism policing, Assistant Commissioner Lawrence Taylor.
Based on what we know, counterterrorism policing has declared this as a terrorist incident.
The suspect is dead. UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer cut his time at a summit of European leaders short to head back to London. He called the attack vile. Ukraine President Volodymyr Zelensky says his country may be able to acquire longer-range weapons from the U.S. to counter Russian airstrikes. Ukraine hopes to strengthen its hand at future negotiations by conducting longer-range strikes on Russia's military. Kremlin spokesman Dmitry Peskov called the move a potential escalation. Tesla shares fell around 4% in regular trading, even after reporting a surprise increase in quarterly vehicle sales as U.S. consumers accelerated electric car purchases before federal tax credits expired. The company delivered a record 497,000 vehicles worldwide. That's up 7.4% from last year. Bloomberg's Craig Trudell says this will be hard to do twice.
The struggle that this company is going to have to sort of replicate this kind of success without the $7,500 tax credit cannot be understated. This is a substantial perk for buyers. You know, consumers wanted to lock that $7,500 in before it went away.
Bloomberg's Craig Trudell. Rivian Automotive shares fell about 7% in regular trading after reporting it expects to deliver up to 43,500 vehicles this year, narrowing its annual delivery guidance as it deals with the loss of those consumer incentives in the U.S. Dallas Fed President Lori Logan says she'll approach additional rate cuts cautiously while the risks to inflation remain more prominent than the threat of higher unemployment. During a speech at the University of Texas at Austin, Logan signaled that she may not support another cut when officials gather again later this month. That's news when you want it with Bloomberg News Now. I'm Amy Morris. This is Bloomberg.